This is Shelley Kraft coming to you live on SNNLive. We're on location in Florida 2015. I have with me Rik Deitsch of Nutra Pharma Corp. It's a publicly traded company and the symbol is NPHC. Rik, welcome to SNNLive.
Thanks for having me, Shelley. It's a pleasure.
It's good to have you. Let's start out with an overview on the company.
I'd be happy to. Nutra Pharma is a publicly traded biotechnology company. We've been around since 2000. We have 21 patents and intellectual property for the treatment of multiple sclerosis, HIV, rheumatoid arthritis, myasthenia gravis, and pain. We also have a division that sells over-the-counter pain products under the name Nyloxin for humans and Pet Pain Away for dogs and cats.
That's a big resume of products. So which one do you want to focus on first?
Well, I'd like to talk about the fact that we are a biotechnology company. That's the blood, the genetics of Nutra Pharma. As I talked about the intellectual property, we have 3 key patents in autoimmune diseases, antiviral diseases, antiviral drugs, and also pain. And that's really where the meat is in this company. Just recently, we received orphan status on our multiple sclerosis drug for the treatment of juvenile MS. That orphan status really tightens the timeline and allows us to get a drug to market much sooner than we otherwise would.
You know, I've never heard of juvenile MS before. I want you to know that. How big a market is that?
Well, it's not really the market size as much as it's the tightening of the timelines. You see, there's only about 10 to 20,000 juvenile MS patients in the United States. But with orphan status, it allows us to get the product through the phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 clinical studies with much smaller patient populations. It's much cheaper to do those studies. And then once that drug is approved, we can go back to the FDA and say, hey, listen, we've proven this in a model of autoimmune diseases. We want to look at other autoimmune diseases, and now we have an approved drug, not an idea.
So in terms of going through your litany of products and patents, which one comes to market first?
Well, as I said, with this orphan status in juvenile MS, that drug is called RPI-78M, and it's a single peptide therapeutic. It's a daily injection, but we've studied it already in more than 300 MS patients. Now, if people don't understand, multiple sclerosis is an autoimmune disease where the immune system attacks your nerves and demyelinates them, takes off the fatty sheath that's the insulation on the nerve. All the drugs for MS in some way, shape, or form are immunosuppressive. They shut off your immune system. And when that happens, your immune system stops working, and so this hyperimmune response, this autoimmune response, slows down or stops as well. And so those drugs work, they slow the forward progression of the disease, but doesn't stop the disease and doesn't improve the symptomatology. Our drug is an immunomodulating agent. It modulates the immune system and prevents that hyperimmune response. And so sorry for all the big words, but basically what it means is the second you start using our drug in our clinical experience, disease progression stops, and over time, symptoms improve. And we've actually seen late-stage patients start getting out of a wheelchair and getting their lives back, and we think we'll prove that in clinical research.
Rik, where does the science come from?
Well, all of these are peptides, small proteins that come from venomous animals. They're neurotoxins, primarily Asian cobra venom. And this research goes back to the early 1900s. Most of the research was in the 1930s in China. The problem is that they use different venoms, different sources. They didn't standardize these things. And we have the ability today with our research to standardize and make sure batch to batch we have the exact same product. And we've even analyzed the mechanism of action. And to not bore the listeners too much, we're looking at receptors in the central nervous system and on the surface of white blood cells. The alpha-cobra-toxin, which is the principal peptide we're talking about, binds to a single subtype of the nicotinic acetylcholine receptor, the alpha-7 subtype. That happens to be in the central nervous system and on the surface of white blood cells. So not only does it block pain, it also blocks inflammation because of its effect on the white blood cells. And it does that in a safe, effective way.
Where was this developed? That's what I want to know.
Well, it's kind of funny. It was developed over and over and over again. The Chinese had it in the 1930s. Army Research was working on it in the 1940s, 1950s. Dr. Murray Saunders was working on it. A company called Biogetics had it in the 1980s, and they went bankrupt in 1986. And then there were companies through the 90s and early 2000s. What we did is not only did we perfect it, we went back and we purchased all of the rights to all the trials and all the intellectual property going back to the beginning. So Nutra Pharma owns everything from the very beginning of this research.
Rik, Are you a doctor?
No, I'm not. I'm not a physician. I have a master's degree in biochemistry. I've been working in the field of pharmaceutical and nutritional biochemistry for the last 20 years, mostly in the field of drug discovery. I've worked on cancer drugs, pain drugs, and now we're working on things inflammation and autoimmune. So I do have a strong background. I also was in product development for the Rexall Sundown Company, and for that company, we were the largest supplier of dietary supplements in the United States. I formulated more than 50 different dietary supplements. I did more than 50 clinical studies in the field of dietary supplements. I've also written 2 books, Are You Age-Wise? A Guide to Healthy Aging. And my last book was called Invisible Killers, and it's all about toxins in the environment and how it affects us and causes disease and dysfunction.
Let's talk about your over-the-counter product that's available today to consumers.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. It's kind of confusing because I try to make sure people understand that we are a speculative biotech company, and that's the way people should look at us. We have potentially multi-billion-dollar drug indications sitting on the shelves as we're working through the FDA process. But back in 2009, we approached the FDA with our pain drug, which at the time we were just calling RPI at the time, but which it was for Receptipharm, our division that was working on it. And the FDA asked me some pointed questions. They said, is this a natural product? And I said, yes, we can get it from cobra venom, or we could synthesize it, whatever you guys want us to do. Then they asked about the dosage, where our average dose is only about 10 micrograms. This incredibly powerful neurotoxin that binds to the nerves and stops pain and inflammation. And the FDA told us because it was a natural product and it was such a small microdose, it actually qualified as an over-the-counter homeopathic medicine. And Asian cobra venom happens to appear in the homeopathic pharmacopoeia of the United States. So we changed our business model at that time. We thought it would be at least 5 to 10 years to get this pain drug to market, but as an over-the-counter homeopathic, it only took about 6 months to do the last bit of research and to publish with the FDA and register with the FDA. And so we were able to launch our first over-the-counter product at the end of 2009. And that's now gone into the changes that led to Nyloxin, which are the strongest products we make. And we have 7 SKUs of Nyloxin, topical gel and oral spray. And we even did research in animals, and that led to the creation of Pet Pain Away for dogs and cats.
So we're almost at the tail end of 2015. Where do you see the company going in 2016?
I think 2016 is our year. And I'm sure every CEO of every company tells you that this next year is their year. But look at what we've done. Not only have we grown a domestic market for Nyloxin and Pet Pain Away, and we're doing some continual revenues. We're ready to tee that up. We now have sales forces that are going into doctors' offices and hospitals and chiropractors, educating people about Nyloxin, going into veterinary centers, educating people about Pet Pain Away. We believe that we'll be starting infomercials and radio commercials sometime by the end of the year or early 2016 to really brand those products. So we really think we're going to build a domestic market. That's just the U.S. We had our products approved in India last year, and we signed, and we announced this earlier this year with Severe Pharmachem, one of the biggest importers in India, and we're going to start selling the products in India over the next several months. And India, believe it or not, is a much bigger market for these products than the United States for 3 major reasons. First, they have a lot of people. They have over 1 billion people, over 300 million middle class that can afford these products. Second thing is, when I tell a person in the United States that, oh, this is a pain drug from cobra venom, they give me a look, and it's an educational process, and are you going to use this product or not? Is it safe? And I've got to talk about the research and everything like that. You have to educate them. When I tell someone in India it's a pain drug from cobra venom, they just say, oh, that makes sense. They have no problem whatsoever with cobra venom as a drug. And then the last thing is, opiates are really frowned upon in India, and this is a throwback to British imperialism. When the British were in charge, there were opium dens all over the place, and they made a fortune off of opium. One of the first things Gandhi did when he got there and was outlaw opium and opiates and close down all the opium dens. So on a per capita basis, India has the lowest prescription rates for opiate drugs in the entire world. So they just don't have those strong pain medicines. Our pain drug could actually take over the market. In our last animal study, we outperformed morphine. We lasted longer than morphine, 2 to 4 hours longer, and because the dose is so small, we were 600 times more potent than morphine on a molecular basis. So we really believe that we're going to take over the market in India over the next 12 to 18 months, and that could be huge for us. We've also now worked with a group in China. We're CPAM approved in China, which means that we're going to be approved and selling product sometime in 2016 in China with a dedicated partner. And we announced Canada a few months ago. We just opened a warehouse in Chatham, Ontario. We're going to be distributing through Canada. So that's just sales. So we believe we're going to be cash flow positive sometime in the next 6 to 12 months. We'll be a profitable company. And not only will we be profitable, it'll create the war chest that'll pay for all the clinical research we're going to do on our biotech products.
Let's get your website out there.
It's Nutra Pharma, www.nutrapharma.com, NutraPharma.com, and you can read all about the products and the work we're doing now.
Ladies and gentlemen, Rik Deitsch, Nutra Pharma Corp. It's a publicly traded company. The symbol is NPHC. I'm Shelley Kraft. This is SNNLive, and we're coming to you live on location in Florida, 2015. Rik, thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Shelley. It was a pleasure.